Okay, everybody, here we go. It's me, Gregory Mannarino, Sunday, February 23rd, 2025. My newest segment of Markets Look Ahead, people, and we need to look at things again through a very particular and precise lens. Let's step back for a moment and take in what is happening globally, the global economy. Okay, let's look at it. Um, It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious to me, and it should be to you, no matter where you live on this planet. It's the same story. It's the same story. So there must be a common denominator. A common denominator. Makes sense to you? Again, while people are being deceived, distracted, told to look here, don't look over there, not knowing what to believe, what to think, and in many ways being told specifically what is the truth through a particular lens. Yet again here, we need to think for ourselves, and we need to start doing that now. The suppression here of free thought, free action, free movement, and I think a good way to put this may be the psyop that is going on here to cause people to again fall through the same trapdoors that have been set for them since the beginning of time, leading to their own demise. Again, the same thing. Deception, distraction, look here, don't look over there. Look, people are very, very easily manipulated. And unfortunately, the masses tend to fall for the same tricks over and over and over again. Why? Because they work. But that's not you and me. You and me, we understand that in order to be in the spot we're in now globally, there must be a common denominator because it's affecting all of us in the same way. Does that make sense to you? Again, what I do is I try to look for the root cause of issues. Basically, it goes back to my medical background. What is the root cause of this disease process? What is the root cause of whatever may be going on? Okay, there's always a core, and then everything else kind of stems from that. Make sense to you? So understanding that, I want to cover a few things with you here so you can better understand what's happening to the economy of the world, and then let's kind of narrow in more to what's happening here in the United States. And why this is important is, again, it's the fact that at least for now, the United States or the Federal Reserve has a stranglehold on the world reserve currency. No secret. No secret at all. The world is de-dollarizing. The world is turning their back on the US dollar. And that's a major issue for people that live here in the United States. They don't understand it. The ramifications of what it would mean if in fact the world were to eliminate the dollar in one way or the other, or move further away from utilizing the dollar in trade. And we're starting to see the phenomenon of this manifest itself in multiple ways here. And I really believe that the people here of the United States are going to get a wake-up call because they feel still that the United States is an island among itself, that we don't have to deal with a global economic situation. That's just not true. And unfortunately, again, it's one of those trapdoors that are set for people. If we do this, if we do that, we're going to change everything. It's just not going to happen because the world today is in the same boat. Every so-called developed economy today is in the same boat for the same exact reason. So let's start off with this. Right now, today, world equity markets, stock markets, are at or near all-time record highs. Meanwhile, the global economy continues to contract faster. And we got some economic news I want to cover with all of you. And look, this is not a surprise to you. If you've been with me for any length of time, you are well aware of what's actually going on with regard to the global economy, why we're seeing inflation right now, and what is about to occur for the most part. But I want to cover this with you again, and I did write this up for all of you. Again, this is in your inbox. If you do subscribe to my newsletter, 100% free to everyone. You guys and girls who follow my work get this first before everybody else. Be first, be smarter, or cheat. We never cheat. We are certainly smarter, and we're going to be first no matter what happens. You understand? So I'm going to urge you guys to check your inbox, read through this. If it doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to cover some of this now. Read through it multiple times. Share this stuff. Get it out there. For those of you that may be taking an economics course or a financial course, present this to your professor. See what they have to say about this. It's pretty obvious, I believe, but again, I always want you guys and girls to take away whatever I say, whatever I present all of you with. Develop your own understanding and your own perspective. Every single one of us, every single one of us, some of us can't speak, understands things in maybe a little bit of a different way, takes a little longer, a little shorter. Everyone's situation is different. So with regard to that, we all understand information differently. So again, with all this stuff I say, please do your own research, make up your own mind. I am not here to change anybody's mind. All I want you guys to do is think. That's all. And realize what's happening and why. So with regard to economic news here in the United States, this is Friday. I didn't cover this in my post-market wrap-up on Friday. I wanted to get my head around this stuff first. And that did lead to me writing this paper, which I have for all of you. I'm going to cover that in a second. So this is Reuters. U.S. business activity is stalling and consumers' inflation expectations surge. If you recall, there was a poll that we covered last week that people, by and large now, are starting to understand that the economic data is all fake. It's all propaganda, and people understand that now. I mean, that alone really should be a wake-up call to those of us who have been so far ahead of the curve that the masses really may be starting to wake up. So anyway, business activity is stalling. I want you to keep that in mind because it's not just stalling. S&P Global here. U.S. economic growth falters and good prices spike higher according to the Flash PMI survey results here. A key development evident in this Friday's Flash PMI was a sharp slowing of business growth in the U.S. We're not growing anywhere. The flash reading in January dropped to a 9-month low. Okay, so we're not growing at all. And this is accompanied by rising prices across the board. Now, U.S. growth falters. February saw U.S. expansion falter. We're not expanding. It's interesting how they word this stuff. To a near stalled pace. This isn't my words. This is their words. Which was even weaker than rates seen in Japan and the UK, and only marginally above that of the Eurozone. The entire system, as I said, as you know, this is being systematically and deliberately taken apart. We are being thrust, people, into a new system, a whole new paradigm, a whole new set of rules. I've been telling you this for over 10 years. And it's too easy to see where we're going just by connecting the dots. You all know that. So I want to cover this with all of you. And of course, as usual, kind of ad-lib through this. So the title of this is The U.S. Economy is Shutting Down Rapidly. Expect widespread job losses with much higher inflation. I am not just talking about jobs at the federal level. The private sector, people, we're already hearing what's going to happen here. Don't take my word for any of this. Big retail here is warning and warning and warning. Consumer weak, consumer weak, consumer weak, consumer. People are maxed out. They are maxed out. We've hit that moment of maximum saturation. We've been here for quite a long time, but it's really starting to manifest itself now. And this is not just a phenomenon here. This is a worldwide thing. So anyway, let's move forward. Business activity here in the United States and around the world has not just stalled, according to these articles. It is contracting. You know that if you've been following this blog. The world economy is contracting at its fastest pace on record. You're not allowed to know that. Meanwhile, global debt is ballooning at its fastest pace on record. Think of that paradox. How does that work? Is there a common denominator here? And that's what I want to talk about. There is a common denominator. You already know what I'm talking about, I hope. This past Friday here in the United States, the business flash PMI, we just covered this, by their own numbers, showed a sharp contraction in business activity. The most recent fall in business activity is following this most recent one. It's following January, where I just told you the business flash PMI hit a 9-month low. Moreover, the S&P Global U.S. February flash services PMI came in at below 50. It came in at 49.7, and any number below 50 is contraction. Now, this is by their own numbers. We all know they're fake, but that's okay. We'll go by what they're allowing us to know. Now, according to S&P Global, I want you to listen to this. This is not Greg Mannarino. This is a quote from S&P Global. I've been warning for weeks that we're going to see mass layoffs of jobs in the private sector and, of course, much higher inflation. So let's listen to this. This is S&P Global, a quote. This unexpected, no one saw this one coming, right, except you and me. This unexpected decline in services and business activity here in the United States is raising concerns about the health of the private sector and therefore the rising potential, I love the way they word things, for private sector job losses. It's going to happen. Yes, of course. Now, for weeks, I have been warning those who follow my work to expect widespread job losses in the private sector moving forward, along with much higher inflation. Now, here we go, people. Look. Common denominator. There is a common denominator here. Why the world today is experiencing the same things. Again, look, there's so many people that think this is just a United States issue because they've been told that by politicians to trying to get you to look here. Don't look over there. To me, this is a deception on a global scale. So I would say a grand scale. This is a global phenomenon. Let us move forward, coming down to the common denominator. Number one, the current phenomenon of a sharp contraction in the global economy can be traced back to a common denominator, and that is what? Currency purchasing power destruction on the back of artificially suppressed rates. Hold that thought. Number two, despite the fact that the world economy is in fact shutting down, this is deliberate, no comedy of errors here, the stock markets of the world are at or near all-time record highs. This phenomenon as well can be traced back to the same common denominator, and that is currency purchasing power destruction on the back of artificially suppressed rates. I have shown you this for years. The faster they can crush the economy of the world, the higher the stock markets of the world are going to go. And that is because of, again, artificially suppressed rates, which opens up a doorway for cash to make its way into risk assets built upon the biggest bubble, the most dangerous threat to human life on the planet Earth. And that comes down to the hyperbubble in debt. And this mechanism of artificially suppressed rates, hyperdebt, is obviously massively negative for the purchasing power of the currency. So as you can see, this turns out to be a wrecking machine for the global economy, artificially suppressed rates, and of course currency purchasing power destruction on the back of that. Wrecking machine for the middle class, wrecking machine for the economy, but it props up the stock market. So anyway, let's move forward. What can we learn from understanding the common denominator? I love that. Sometimes these things are just too obvious. Artificially suppressed rates and therefore currency purchasing power destruction are number one, negative for the economy, number two, positive for the stock market. The current trajectory globally is to expect that central banks will be allowed to vastly and rapidly inflate from here. Why do you think we're getting calls for the Fed to lower rates immediately? Why is Scott Bessent, our U.S. Treasury Secretary, on a crusade lately to get us lower rates here, and saying, let's let the Fed off the hook. Let's just work on getting the 10-year yield rate lower. 10-year yield lower. Why? 10-year yield is the benchmark. Everything prices off of it. That is massively currency purchasing power negative. He can't tell you that. No politician can tell you that. No central banker is going to tell you that. But Greg Mannarino sure is. Anyway, here we go. The current trajectory globally is to expect that central banks will be allowed to vastly and rapidly inflate from here, which increases their collective power and control. Potentially, now listen to this, potentially, people, this mechanism can boost the stock markets, but the economy will suffer faster. The law of diminishing returns applies here. To keep the stock market propped up, the mechanism of artificially suppressed rates and therefore currency purchasing power losses will require extraordinary, can you see that? Extraordinary measures. The law of diminishing returns applies here. That's what I wrote. To continue to push cash into risk assets, stocks, or the stock markets as a whole, in the current environment will require a sharp upward move in debt expansion. Debt expansion in the form of currency issuance, kind of like a stimmy check. Those $5,000 checks they're talking about you're getting here. It's an amazing thing, man. We're not clawing back any cash yet from the apparent, or what they're telling us, fraud and misallocation of funds that has gone on. I know this has gone on. We all know that. We have yet to claw back a single dollar. We have not seen, again, a single person being pointed at. This is the one, or this is the group of people who are responsible for it. Interesting phenomenon. I understand that this takes time. For those of you that this may trigger you, I'm not looking to trigger you. But again, no clawbacks, no accountability so far whatsoever, but you may get a $5,000 check. But that's okay. All right. What would you expect in this kind of an environment? People can't survive. And again, just funneling out, thousands of dollars. Where's this cash come from? Since we haven't clawed back any funds, I mean, there's talk about this $5,000 check from Doge. Where does that cash come from? We don't have it. We're absolutely destitute. We are the most indebted nation in the history of the world. Comes right out of the Federal Reserve. And of course, will be immediately added to the national debt. But you can't know that either. But this is the way politics works. It's incredible thinking. Anyway, to continue to push cash into the risk assets in the current environment, we require a sharp upward move in debt expansion. Debt expansion in the form of currency issuance, which is also massively purchasing power negative and therefore inflationary. Are we on the same page? Now, to stop the economies of the world from contracting, which would help the middle class and return purchasing power to the currency, would require much higher rates. You know that. Higher rates would, of course, be a wrecking machine for the stock market. Instead, what we will see is lower rates and the calls for lower rates moving forward, and therefore a further destruction of the currency purchasing power. This is, of course, positive for the stock market, but is a wrecking machine for the economy and the middle class. People, this is not an accident. Why we're here, why we're being pushed into the situation here. The economy, despite all the talk to the contrary, all the rhetoric to the contrary, by their own numbers is coming apart here. And we can look back on this video in 6 months, and you're going to see that everything that we covered today, save this video. Again, I'm urging you to save my videos, so you can look back on these in 6 months to a year from now. See if what I said was correct. All right. It's too easy, honestly, to just put this stuff together here. And the distractions and the deceptions and the trap doors that are being set for everyone, and throngs of people are falling through it, but not you and not me, because we're awake. We have raised our level of awareness, which I've been telling you guys and goes to do since forever here. Once you can do that and you snap out of the almost like hypnotic state that people are being placed in via the mainstream media outlets, putting out whatever information that they want you to be aware of, or basically want you to focus on instead of the bigger picture. look here, people. Don't you dare look over there because maybe you'll start to wake up. And people are waking up. People understand already. I mean, this is the majority of people realize that the government statistics, it's all fake. People realize these things. So that may be the first step in seeing more people finally come around to the situation. What does this really come down to? What it really comes down to is this: understanding the dynamics that are in play. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your way of life? How you're going to provide for your family here? We are going to see, mark my words on this, mark my words on this, mass layoffs with regard to the private sector moving forward. And this means small businesses here in the United States are going to be squeezed to death in favor, of course, fulfilling the corporate agenda. Why do you think what we're seeing here is kind of an interesting phenomenon? We understand that we're in a massive deregulatory situation right here. Okay, deregulation for the banks, deregulation for corporations, deregulation for big oil. Are you seeing what's going on here? Like they're not profitable enough already. Of course, it will add to their bottom line here. Let's rely on crude oil, so the big oil doesn't have to worry about being compliant. Let's deregulate them so they don't have to be, so they can profit more. Okay, I get it. I really feel that the United States is going to fall way behind the rest of the world with regard to renewable energy. That's a fact. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not even talking about the whole You're sold, oh, global warming, this, that, and the other thing. Renewable energy is where the world is going, and the United States is surely going to be left behind here, unfortunately. I believe we need, I'm not saying we need to get rid of combustion engines here. I think we need, like E85, for example, much better with regard to octane rating and able to produce power for a combustion engine. You all know I'm a drag racer. I got a 2017 Copo Camaro sitting in my garage. It makes around 1,200 horsepower. Yeah, I like the power that we can get out of a combustion engine here. But you're not being told about things like E85, which has to makes more power than gasoline does, or this is a renewable source, more higher octane. Who's not into that? I mean, come on, man. But again, you must be deceived and distracted. And it's a fact that, unfortunately, the United States is going to fall way behind the rest of the world with regard to renewable energy right now. It's a shame, really, because I'd like to see the United States be the leader, and we're not. We're kind of going back, which is unfortunate with regard to that. But anyway, look, guys and girls, I want you to think about the stuff that we've spoken about here. Um, and honestly, what it means for you with regard to job losses, with small business wipeout that is going to occur as a result of this as well, fulfilling the corporate agenda, deregulating not just the banks, but the corporations here, big business here, allowed to profit more so, big oil. I mean, come on, man. It's too obvious, isn't it? You see how it's actually developing here, or you just really can't see it? It's unfortunate if you can't. And I wouldn't be surprised if many people can't, because they've been psyoped on a massive scale. It's an unfortunate thing here. It's no secret that the last administration here was a curse upon the earth. Every day, I had 10 names for Bidenstein, Mummy Man, Creature, Vomitous, Puke. I mean, you can go on and on. And I call them out every freaking day. Well, almost every day. I really believe that. But anyway, look, man, we have to look at the bigger picture as usual here. What's going on? And unfortunately, what we're being sold here, and then you're going to see a blame game. Okay, we're seeing higher inflation, and it's because of the fault of this. It's not going to be because of currency purchasing power destruction on the back of lower rates. Believe me, you're not going to hear that. It's going to be blamed on something else. We all understand the lag effect of vast currency production, however you want to call it, pulling cash into the now over the last, more than 10 years. And now we're starting to see inflation rear its ugly head. Can't be stopped without vastly raising rates or returning us to a constitutional money system, which isn't going to happen, unfortunately. Because returning us to a constitutional money system would return power to we the people. The way the system retains its power, in this case by allowing a central bank, the Federal Reserve, to control the monetary system gives the central banking cartel as a whole globally enormous power over all of us. They're not going to surrender that. So just snap out of it if you can possibly, and realize that we're being thrust into a much worse situation. And this is not by accident. Everything you're seeing, everything you're seeing is by design here. So again, going back to what I said, think about what it means for you. If you are employed by the private sector, not a federal employee, all right, and you have a high probability of losing your job moving forward as the economy contracts faster, as these corporations here are looking to trim the fat. All right, and you're nothing. You're fat. You're going to be trimmed off as they streamline their business model here, of course, and they have no choice in many ways. Why do you think they're being deregulated? So they can get more profit out of a system that is being systematically destroyed. They're in on it too. It's the corporate agenda, the military industrial complex, all of this. You know all that plays together. You should, at least, I hope. And this is going to be, again, a very destructive for small businesses across the board in the United States, unfortunately. The backbone of the world at one point was small business. Small business is being eradicated along with the middle class. It's an extinction level event. I've been telling you this for a very long time. Look, I hope that I've made sense with what I've said here to you. Greg, you got it right here, and here, but you got it wrong here, and here. We are stronger together. Instead of insulting each other or whatever it might be, and I read through the comments, it breaks my freaking heart. It really does. We've lost the ability to interact with each other on an intellectual level. It's very unfortunate. It really is. And I know that I have a habit of like vomit is puke, Bidenstein creature, mummy. I do the same thing. It's a coping mechanism for me. I get it. And I should practice what I preach in many ways. But let's try to, this is a family that we have here. And people who are here, I think, get it for the most part. So let's try to, if you guys and girls engage each other, let's try to do this in a more humane way. Honestly, it really hurts me when I see people arguing and the name calling and the this and the that and the personal attacks on people. Look, man, why do that? I don't understand. Does that help anyone? It doesn't. Actually, what it ends up doing is hurting you. When you go out of your way and your blood pressure starts raising, you're freaking out, and this person's you calling this person this and anything. How does that help you? It doesn't. It doesn't help you. Uh, Maybe it's a coping mechanism like me. I have no idea. But I really think we should all start to treat each other with more respect. Um, Understanding that we are all divinely created, and that is our common denominator. You understand? All right, I love you guys and girls from the heart with all I got. I mean that with all I got. So if you got some out of this video, I want to hear from you. Good, bad, or indifferent. I do appreciate that. And if you did, if I have earned your thumbs up, I would appreciate that too. Share this stuff. Get it out there, people. And that's it. All right. I'll see all of you in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend here. And like I always tell you, man, we can't lose. We got everything on our side as far as I'm concerned. And we just got to remain diligent and stay ahead of the curve on this. And I intend to keep all of you there and myself as well. All right. I'll never let you down. I swear. Love you.